What's up? Hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Makita. Thank y'all for hitting that play. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, all that good stuff, all that fun stuff. Um, yes, I am recording a video on a Monday. Why? I'm recording a video on a Monday because I actually started fasting a couple of days ago, and I think that I am a little bit full right now. So I'm just trying to get this word out. I probably got enough revelation to do about 3 videos right now, but I'm only gonna do one. Spare y'all. I'm only gonna do. But I also believe in like sitting with words sometime. Every word is not meant for us to share immediately. I just think that some words, God be talking to you, so um, you got to sit with every word for a little minute. So, but I might, because I'm in between the fast, I might record again this week. Really just depend on how my schedule looking. But yeah, I appreciate y'all for tuning in, for dropping by again. We on a Monday. It is a Monday. But yeah, let's dive into this. I named this this video "A Peculiar People" because that's just kind of what I was getting when I was reading the book of Daniel. Just about how Daniel was willing to stand out. He was willing to be different. He was willing to defy the laws of man and just kind of go against the grain a little bit. When you're a Christian, you gotta go against the grain a little bit. You can't be riding with the grain. Basically, you gotta go against the grain. So yeah. So this word is coming from the book of Daniel, and let's just kind of dive right into it. So in the book of Daniel, he was in the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar, who was the king in command at the time. Y'all know what's so crazy to me? It's like when I read the Bible, and the more, or I'm not even gonna say the more that I read it, but like the Bible just seems to be like, especially in the New Testament, like a bunch of kings just not being able to get it right? And I'm just wondering, why does God, like, we are so messed up as a people. I just can't understand why God keeps trying. That's why I know for a fact I can't be God, because baby, I would have quit. I would have quit on y'all a long time ago. I'm not even gonna hold you. I don't know. It just seems like in the Old Testament, especially, like, we just couldn't get right. There was so many kings, so many people in charge who was just doing whatever, just doing what they wanted to do, just like a misuse of power per se. And I'm wondering, why do we struggle so heavily with that? Like, why is that why is that even a thing for us? Like, is it our pride? Is it our insecurities? Like, what causes us to like get in these positions and not be able to be who God called us to be, or whatever? But that's just something that I got, like, just because if you read multiple scriptures, especially like in the New Testament, in the Old Testament, if you read multiple books, you will learn that this was a consistent thing. Like, kings ruled for a little while, and then the moment they couldn't get it right, they was something was happening to them to take them from rulership, from kingship. And so it was just a consistent thing. It just had me thinking a little bit, but this has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. So, but in this time, King Nebuchadnezzar, he was the commander in charge at this time, right? And they had a war with Judah, and the Lord had gave Judah over to King Nebuchadnezzar and his people, right? And so they had collected a lot of the possessions and even the people that were left in Judah. And so the king had declared for he wanted all the men to be trained. I don't know if trained for war or what, but he wanted them all to be trained. And so they were all going through this training process. And he said that he would supply them with their food and drink during this process. Now, Daniel and his friends, all their names got changed. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That Daniel and his friends, they were just sort of like to the person who was watching over them. They like, listen, don't give us no food and wine. Let us eat veggies for the next 10 days, and just test us, just see how our bodies, how we perform in comparison to the people eating the king's food. And so, they did that. The person who was talking to, they let them eat veggies for 10 days, and when they came back to do the assessment of who was the strongest, Daniel and his friends, of course, they proved to be a lot more stronger. And so basically what you got to understand is you have to be willing, even in the face of kings, queens, presidents, pastors, anybody in rulership, you have to be willing to still choose God. Okay, and that's really what we see Daniel do so often in the book of Daniel, is he consistently chooses God. And so they didn't really get into too much trouble for that. They were just they were actually just proven to be stronger men who also were allowed to eat the veggies that they wanted to eat after that. However, though, because of people in command, people in rulership, it's just always something. I think that, so what ended up happening was King Nebuchadnezzar, he had a dream and he needed somebody to interpret the dream. Nobody in the land could do it, not a sorcerer, not a magician, not the zodiac people, the astrologers, nobody could interpret the dream, which was kind of crazy because he wasn't telling the dream. He just wanted them to tell him his own dream and then explain it. So it was something that really only God could do. But nobody who was qualified, nobody who was qualified was able to interpret this dream for King Nebuchadnezzar but Daniel. And I believe that the main reason why Daniel was able to interpret the dream was because he sought God for the dream, right? Having a relationship with God and having a degree, having a certificate, having a high position in your job, having a lot of these, nothing compares to the relationship with God, right? Because there were so many more people qualified to tell to tell the king about his dream, but it ended up being Daniel. And so I just think that has a lot to do with Daniel's ability to be able to seek God. A lot of us, we don't want to seek God. And when we do want to seek God, we want to seek God for our own personal gain, our own personal benefits. We're not seeking God to be a peculiar people. We're not seeking God to have information that everybody don't have. We're not seeking God to stand out. We're not seeking God, we seeking God for our own personal gain, which I'm sure, like, Daniel wasn't like, oh Lord, I want to stand out, let me go get this dream. But he knew where he could go to get the dream, if you understand what I'm saying. So it wasn't about him standing out. It's about him being willing to do or to go the places that other people are not willing to go to get and to have what other people are not willing to get and to have, right? So I also think that Daniel's willingness to say no to the food, it also kind of inspired his friends. You want to have peculiar friends too, right? You want to have friends who are also not afraid to stand out, who are also not afraid to not fit in, not do what everybody else is doing. Because sometimes having friends like that can by default make you that type of person. They always say birds of a feather flock. So if you're hanging around people who probably don't have that peculiarness in them, you probably won't have it in you either. But I think that because of Daniel's willingness to be like, no, I'm not going to do this just because y'all said I want to do this, he kind of encouraged his friends who also found themselves to be tempted with fitting in when King Nebuchadnezzar, he made gold statues and silver statues. Just he just created a lot of stuff for them to worship. And he asked that everybody in the land worship and honor the things that he made. And Daniel's friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, was like, nah, we're going to worship our God. We're going to pray to our God. Because that's just, for one, that's what they knew. And for two, they knew that was right, despite what everybody else was doing, despite even what the king was saying. See, here's my thing. Because especially right now, when we putting so much emphasis on our president and who we need to vote for, and who, if you vote for somebody who says something wrong, right? Where is your position now? If you vote for somebody who says something that goes against what God says, where's your position now? We don't have a lot of people like that in the world today. If President Trump say it, they running with it. If Kamala Harris, Biden, whoever, if a lot of it just seems like, because we are always seeking somebody to follow, somebody to that would imply that we would have to kind of do everything that they say, and those are worldly rules. We as Christians, we have to do everything that God says. We have to do everything that God says. I'm gonna say that one more time. We as Christians, we need to do everything that God says. You can have good friends, you can have good co-workers, you can have great family, and they could still get it wrong when it comes to you about God, right? Or they can still tell you something totally different from what God wants to speak to you. They can be telling you something from experience or from their own heart, and it'd be totally different from what God wants to speak to you. So we need to be able to, in the face of whoever's in charge, say no if it's necessary. Right? Like Rosa Parks, say no. You can't get up. I just want to throw that in there. But no, so I do think that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were influenced by Daniel's decision to not eat the veggies, because when it was time to worship the gold statues, they wasn't on that. They like, no, we're going to do, and we're going to worship the God, the Lord of the land, our God, who we know to be, who and what we know to be true, right? And so that's how they ended up in the furnace, which the furnace was so hot that it killed the people who put them in there, right? But it did not touch them. Why? Because favor, I don't care what nobody's saying. Whenever you choose God, you will always find favor, even if it's hard to say yes, because like there may be consequences. Daniel and them, they didn't just stand up to these people and it wasn't no consequences. And they're like, we are spiritual beings in a physical world. There will always be consequences. Everybody don't see things spiritually as we see it. A lot of people, they live in the physicality. So yes, you might have to face consequences. You might have to be saying no in a time where a yes is common, so. But I just think that they were favored because of their ability to be different, their ability to say no. And so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they came out the next morning untouched in a furnace. In a furnace. Okay? You know how blessed you gotta be to walk in the furnace, and then you won't got not an inch of fire. Like your hair, nothing, you ain't burn an eyelash. That's a complete blessing, right? It's just the favor of God. And so I just want y'all to really just pay attention to that. Go back and read the book of Daniel. You got to be different. You got to be willing to say no, and you got to be able to stand up in the faces of all these people that's in command of all these. Like, you can't be one of those people that's like, oh, the boss said this, so I'm going to do this. Here's my take on it. If the boss say it, that's fine. Run it by God. I run everything by God. Run it by God. They might not be lying. They might be telling you the dead truth. Okay, run it by God. If it's the truth, God going to tell you the same exact thing they just told you. If it's not, though, okay, you not going to be mad that you didn't run that you ran anything by God. Okay, so just run it by God. So, and then, so they get out the furnace, and then years go by, and there ended up being a new person in leadership, who I believe it was King Darius who was in leadership, and he come in, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe that King Darius, or no, It was the one whose name started with a J. I gotta go back and reread it, but it was the one before Darius. And he was he needed a dream interpreted, and of course they all go back to the same person who interpreted the dream, the first person in the first place, the only person who out there in the land seeking God. You can do anything when you get it from God. You can tell any dream. You can speak anything when you get it from God. So he needed a dream interpreted. So he go get it from God. So he go get Daniel. Daniel tell him the dream. As they skip. And he told them, Daniel, when he tell me the dream, I want him in royal clothing. I want, Daniel was favored. And the people around Daniel could not stand him. They like, why is he getting all these special treatment, blase skip? But they could not trip Daniel up. Outside of it being because Daniel was not wrong. He was not wrong. People just be mad. Okay, we want to talk about that. Daniel was not wrong, but people were very jealous of Daniel. They were very jealous of his favor. They were very jealous of the fact that he got to wear the nice the fancy robes, etc. So they was mad, and so they couldn't set Daniel up. They wasn't gonna be able to set Daniel up just any old kind of way because Daniel, he not dumb. He not falling for the okie doke. So they had to set Daniel up spiritually, and that was they went to the person that was in charge, and they're like, listen, make a decree. Everybody in the land, they gotta praise, they gotta worship only you. They gotta pray only to you. And if they don't, they die. Point blank period. And so the king, he made a decree or whatever, and sent it out. As soon as Daniel heard this decree, y'all, he went home and he prayed to who? God. Daniel, he wasn't with none of that. Don't come telling me none of that. And I know who my God is. Don't come telling me none of that, baby. Daniel wasn't with none of that. They said, Daniel, you gotta worship God. Daniel said, no, I can't even do that. But the thing about it is, the king who, it might have been King Darius. I gotta go back and read this. The king who, so Daniel, he, of course, like I said, consequences. Daniel had to go get in the lion's den. But the king who put him in the lion's den was scared to do so. Why? Because he knows the God that Daniel's worship. See, even the enemy knows what's up. And I'm not even calling the king an enemy because he wasn't really Daniel's enemy. But what I'm saying is, we think that people who telling us don't worship God, people who telling you, they know God too, baby. It ain't even about whether or not they know God, whether or not, it's about how they want to be worshipped, how they want to be perceived, how they want to be, But the enemy, he knows God. Like, he know what's up. He knew Daniel. He straight up said the king had a hard time putting Daniel in the lion's den because he knew Daniel wasn't wrong, and he know the God that Daniel worships. He also had a lot of respect for Daniel because Daniel was the only person who could interpret his dreams, right? You got to be different, y'all. Okay, you got to be able, you got to be willing to stand out. You got to be different. You have to be willing to just not do what everybody else is doing. I just got a phone call, and I'm recording on my laptop, so everything just kind of went a little haywire. But yeah, you got to be willing to not do what everybody else is doing. You got to be willing to say no and choose God regardless. Go back and read Daniel. The whole thing. It's only 12 books. But go back and read Daniel so that you can know what I'm saying. Daniel was never one to, it's a saying, if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. Daniel was not falling. Why? Because he stood on something. He was standing on business. He was out there standing on kingdom business. Big Daniel. Right? So I just want to encourage y'all, especially during these times. I don't know what's going to happen with America in these next couple of years, months. I don't know if we're going to go to war or not, but you don't know what might be happening. So you want your leader to be God. You want to make sure that you are listening to God. Okay? I know people say, people have this thing that if you don't, even especially with me, people think that I don't listen to them, I'm disrespectful. It's disrespectful. No, I heard what you said, and I done ran it by God, and He done told me something totally different. All respect to you, but I am a Christ follower. I don't even know you, like dead ass. I don't know y'all. So, yeah, be a person that's willing to stand for something. Be a person that's willing to choose God regardless of what everybody else is around you choosing. That's where the favor comes from, y'all. That's where the blessings, that's where, like, even if nobody else sees, I promise you, the most important person that you want to see it, He sees it. He sees your obedience to Him, especially He sees your faithfulness. God sees it all. So just choose God, y'all, and go back this week and read the book of Daniel so that y'all know I ain't just passing on no fluff, no fluffy. Yeah, but go back and read the book of Daniel this week. I want to just challenge y'all, encourage y'all. I was gonna bring my mic out, but I don't because I be saying to everybody else that be on the podcast, yo, welcome to my, but I'm gonna say this. I'm really thinking I'm about to make a beat and record a song for myself. So yeah, I don't know. I might use it in one of these videos. I just be doing stuff. You know, everybody is important when they got a microphone. But yes, you got to be willing to go against the grain, y'all. I remember when it was some stuff happening on TikTok where they was talking about the phones and all that was gonna go down, y'all, and it was just so crazy. And everybody was like, "Oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that." Not me. Everybody was saying they was gonna turn their phones off. So I literally was sitting here with everything still turned off. First of all, no man knows the day or the hour, y'all. Don't be listening to these TikTok theologians. You better go get with God. So, but I just believe, and I didn't, like, people was really like going to great lengths to protect themselves from something that they didn't even know what it was. Baby, they just heard it on TikTok. Going through great lengths to do, you don't even know what's coming. Like, how are you going to protect yourself? You don't even know what's coming. But yeah, you got to be willing to stand out. You got to be willing to be different. It's like easier said than done. I think a lot of things are. But once you practice anything and you keep, sometimes you just got to say no. When everybody telling you to say yes and you got all these reasons and all, just say no and just see what God does with it. Just see how God honors it, right? Just take something that somebody else told you and then just take it to God. And then when you are in a situation where you have to pick between them and God, pick God and see how, and watch how God honors it. Not saying that there won't be consequences. Again, we are spiritual beings in the physical world, but I believe that just like in Daniel, these Daniel and his friends, as far as I'm concerned, they didn't say nothing about them dying during his chapter. I know they died, but not during his chapter. So I'm pretty sure they were around for a while. Even after all the threats, even after all the, they were around for a while. They were around for a while. So yeah, that's this week's word. The word of the week. I don't know why I'm tongue twisted as heck right now. But yeah, I want to encourage y'all to go read the book of Daniel for yourselves. And just be a peculiar people. Just be a different person. Like, you don't run it by God and then, whatever God say, that's what you do. These people don't run you. Everybody, it don't matter what position that they in right now, everybody gonna have to die. Everybody gonna have to see dirt. Right? 6 feet, whether you 6 feet, whether you cremated, but you gonna have to see the dirt. So you have to be able to have a foundation that's kind of stronger than even people. I think I'm gonna make a video about that next. So yeah, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. This video is long, y'all. These videos just be going. Read the book of Daniel. I didn't say no scriptures because I'm really just referencing the entire book of Daniel. So go back, read it for yourself. Go get a word for this week, and stay different. And peace out.